awesome with football in the past, and expect nothing different this year. And they've also been awesome at all sports. But right now, with football season going, you really want to check it out. We're going to be bringing you that show over here. You want to use the promo code BobbyFi to get in 20% off of everything. And with that said, please give us the thumbs up, say hello when you get in the chat, and drop a line anytime. We want to make this interactive and get it going. I've got sheets coming in a minute. I want to get this out on Twitter, so I'm hoping that I can just do that while I talk through this interesting slate with you guys. And right as I say it, here comes the man himself, Mr. Eric Sheetshaber, the big winner last week. What's going on, man? We're just getting going. I haven't really talked about anything yet. So how you doing over there?
My normal triple multitasking self is trying to make all this work.
Yeah, hey, that's I can relate a little bit, but not quite to the extent that you do, because you've got a lot of different. You're handling a lot of different things.
Triple multitasking self is.
That's interesting. It's not it's my playback just got mixed up on our video. Anyway, all right, Sheets, let's talk about it. We're going to talk a little bit about the major MLB today. We could probably throw in just a little NBA stuff. Are you going to play any NBA tonight?
I literally didn't know they were playing.
Okay. How about the NFL Showdown?
I haven't taken a look at it yet. I probably will. It's not a 2-game slate in the NBA, though, right?
The NBA, no, we just got a 1 game.
Okay.
Just 1 game. It's just a showdown.
Which game is tonight?
It's a Miami.
Boy, I didn't think they should have them play 2-game slates. They should wait till they're both ready to play.
No, it's great for us. The problem is then what do they do with their viewership? They're killing their viewership because they can spread it out over 2 nights rather than just getting one.
Yeah, that's true.
But all right, man. Well, let's talk baseball, because we've already talked about that a little bit. I think there's a lot to go through today. As I always say about baseball, I know we talk about general sports bets. I don't think there's any bet I would make on any game today. That's sort of how I am with most baseball slates. It's just such a high variance game, and you're never really getting the right thing. If there was one thing I would bet, I would lay whatever. I think Philly's going to beat the hell out of the Mets today. That's basically my only strong take, and it's a pretty close spread. So I guess that's the only one I would consider betting on. Anything for you?
No, I don't. I have no opinion on this stuff.
Okay, let's get into that.
Every once in a while I do, right? I had the 2 for 2 with the Miami and the over the other day, right, in the basketball.
Yeah, you're right. You actually do nail it every time you do. So whenever you have a take, it's a good one.
Exactly.
So, make sure to write those ones down. And all right, Chiefs, let's get over to it. I want to talk a little bit about
right in the basketball.
What's that?
That wasn't me. I think that was echo through your thing again.
It's really driving me crazy because I'm trying to, again, it's the multitasking thing. I haven't even gotten a chance to load it on Twitter yet. So talk a little bit about this slate from an overall perspective, and then we'll go position by position for baseball.
Yeah, so I think you have to start with Bieber in your SP1 on DraftKings and also on FanDuel as well. And I still think that Valdez is kind of a clear, at least for me, a number 2 with respect to certainly FanDuel and DraftKings as well. I'm not going to get to Nola. You could talk about you were mentioning there particular matchup issues maybe with him, but the other SP2s that are interesting are Tanaka, who's probably going to get some ownership, and there was another one whose name escapes me right now. The Lugo, which I'm just not as interested in as I thought that I kind of might be. So for me, it's probably going to be some combination of Bieber, Valdez, and Tanaka. And there was another one who escaped me. Who was the other D2? That was it. That's all I had.
I like. I have a little bit of a different take with pitching today. I like Hudson a lot. So he's the guy I think I'm starting to lean as my SP2. I think there's plenty of room out there. There's lots of value we have on this slate, so we can definitely use him. So I don't know. He's my guy. I also like. Valdez makes the most sense, but I'm getting a great ownership and a little bit of a price discount. And I think that it's going to be, it's somewhat off the board, and I think that you could easily see, Bieber and Hudson having the best scores tonight. I think Bieber is pretty hard to fade as an SP1. In tournaments, you certainly could do it and go down. It would have worked yesterday if you played the singer Gibson. You did play some Gibson yesterday, which congratulations on your little win.
Excuse me, I would like to make an announcement.
Or nothing, something?
Just totally off the beaten path. I would like to announce, so you don't even know this exists, but there's an early slate going on today. And there is someone who has, well, there are actually 2 people Nope, one person has 2 home runs today. You want to guess who that is?
Get it? I know you're going to tell me.
It's Byron Buxton.
This guy, you know how frustrating it is that we're not on the main slate with him? And we have him every day. He usually just hits 1 for us. But today he hit 2? Come on.
2 home runs at 2,700.
Oh, man, that's our guy. Shit. Shoot. Sorry, I shouldn't be
Just thought I would as a public service announcement.
Well, hey, man. Yeah, I mean.
Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, now I'm already tilted on this slate. We definitely got into this slate. I'm already tilted because I can't play my Byron Buxton. He did it again for us last night. This guy just hitting home runs every day now. Since we started talking about him, we turned him into the best player in baseball.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, let's talk about, I guess pitchers. Tanaka to me is viable. I don't like the umpire in this. We've got one of the best hitters umpires in baseball in this Mets and Philly game. And I don't like the matchups for Nola with so many with enough good lefties who are really good against righties for a guy who struggled with lefties in the past. So I'm going to go a different route and not play him myself. I don't mind it. I mean, if you want to take that shot, I'm not going to play Lugo. I do think he'll get some ownership, and I'm not going to buy it. I know the Philly lineup looks weak, but I actually find myself with a mini Philly stack most of my lineup. So that's where I'm at. We'll talk about stacks at the end, but let's go position by position. Again, it's going to matter somewhat with your stacks, but at catcher, who do you sort of have as your guy that if you were playing cash, would be Will Smith. But the way it is, I mean, you've got Sanchez at lower ownership because of the Dodger situation. There's some interesting options, but it's nothing like too exciting.
I would think my cash game would actually be the opposite. Wouldn't it be Elias Diaz?
I'm sorry, Elias Diaz. Either one. I actually think that it depends on how you're building. I mean, Will Smith's right to play. I think Will Smith might be batting in like the middle of the order today too, and Will Smith versus a lefty in Colorado. He's a good hitter too. Like, I mean, Diaz is if you need to save the money. But I the guy who I have is Knapp because I'm playing my mini.
Oh yeah.
And I like Knapp. I like Knapp batting 6th. He's 2,400. He's a better actual hitter than Diaz is. He's not in Coors obviously, but Philly is not a bad stadium either. And I can definitely get behind Knapp. He's a switch hitter, can go either way. So I'm good with Knapp tonight. He's the guy I'm probably going to have the most exposure to.
Okay.
All right. How about, I mentioned Gary Sanchez, but I just think that he's a really good tournament play. And we still have to see how that Yankees lineup shakes out. But I think that Sanchez would certainly be an interesting play. And obviously, Mr. 3 home runs himself, Higashikawa or however you pronounce his last name, would be a good play as well. First base, where do we stand?
So I think that, again, it's funny. The guys that are rating the best for me are the guys that nobody's going to want to play. And that's going to be nobody's going to want to play, obviously, but Bellinger, lefty, and Muncy, lefty, out of the Dodger game. But we've agreed that Carlos Santana, we don't really want to play him. I guess Voit, if you want to pivot off of those guys. So I guess Voit would probably be the way I would go. And you could certainly play. Did you mention Baum from Philly?
I was about to get to him, but he's the guy. I mean, I'm waiting for you to name yours, and I'll go mine.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and those would be my favorites.
Yeah, I love Baum. I think you can use him at first or third now, so which is totally your call. Voit with the Yankees, and even alone, the guy's just a monster. Otherwise, it's actually pretty. Mostly I find myself using those guys right now. I don't really have, for some reason, a lot of other first basemen. There's plenty of options. Goldschmidt's fine. I'm not going to go there myself, but I don't like the St. Louis side as much as some of the projection systems seem to today. It's a pretty narrow first base pool for me. I guess it's only a 6-game slate, and that's probably why. But if you want to play a really low-owned Dodger or the lowest owned of the Dodgers, it would be Bellinger if he's in the lineup tonight. That is probably at the bottom of the order. But Muncy, I guess. I forgot to mention Muncy. Muncy is the one guy, Freeland doesn't give up a ton of home runs. He keeps the ball on the ground. You'd like a fly ball guy against him. Muncy's the guy who would profile the best of the lefties in the Dodgers and will have actually also similarly low ownership to Cody Bellinger. So those are sort of the guys I'm using for the most part. I don't really want to get into anybody else on this slate.
Okay.
Carlos Santana is really popular and will be popular, and I'm just not going there personally.
He just doesn't have the power? Is that why you don't like it?
He just looked terrible.
Okay.
And I'm tired of playing these chalky guys who just can't hit the ball right now.
Yeah.
I'm just off of it. I'm done with it, I guess. Second base is interesting. I'll start this one off if you don't mind. I think that Altuve is going to be chalky. Obviously, no problem. I always like picking on Lyles. I actually might need to play a little more today because I need to get some Houston stacks. I love picking on Lyles, but Houston's been pretty awful too lately. And LeMahieu in your Yankee stacks, I really like LeMahieu tonight. So it's those guys. The other low-owned Dodger you're going to get is Gavin Lux. And the lefty who's maybe going to be low-owned, but I think has a good shot at hitting a home run off of Nola would be Robinson Cano.
Yeah, so my favorite, aside from the guys you mentioned, how about that, is two guys. One is from the Dodger game, Garrett Hampson, 3,300. I don't even know what lineup they're going to throw out there, whatever, but I like him. And somebody from this game that might end up being popular, but maybe Adam Frazier from Pittsburgh in the St. Louis game at 3K. So, but aside from that, you covered the rest, except the one guy maybe you didn't cover. In lineups where you're not going to have Valdez, I like Nick Solak a little bit.
Yeah, I can get behind that. That's who I had. I don't know how. I just don't see myself getting to that much Valdez today at this ownership. But I really I like him. It's not that I don't. I just maybe I will play a little Nick Solak. All right, third base. You want to start it off?
Yeah. So third base. Again, just the best players are going to come out of that last game, right? So Turner and Arenado, but I'm getting involved with this idea that Arenado might really be hurt.
Yep.
So I guess Turner would be the safer, whatever. They're both 5K baseball players. They're both 5K baseball players, so nobody's safe, right? So, but Turner, and then if you wanted to pay down, back to this Pittsburgh game, this Cabrera and Hayes, 3,100. If you want to pivot off of those, maybe this Houston thing's a good idea because if both Turner and Arenado are going to get ownership, you can get a lower owned Bregman.
I don't think Arenado is going to be that high owned today.
Oh, right, okay, because he's hurt, I suppose.
I don't know exactly. I think that I think paying down for Baum makes sense. I think you could play Cabrera Hayes if you want to. I'm playing Hudson a little bit, so I'm not as interested. Tommy Edman, I think he makes more sense at third base because outfield is loaded. Those guys, in addition to the guys you mentioned, I do love the idea of playing Bregman. Because haven't looked good, but if we're going to use the thing on Arenado, these guys haven't looked good either. So they're not hurt, but they just haven't looked good in a while. But I do really like this Houston side against Lyles here. So I don't mind that. And Muncy and Baum, again, I'm just going to mention those are going to be my main guys.
Huh.
Justin Turner, by the way, does have a little BVP, but it's interesting because he's got 26 at bats. He's 12 for 26, but only one extra base, which was a double, no home runs off of Lyles. Not Lyles. Excuse me. God, I got stuck on the Jordan Lyles thing against the lefty for Colorado. All right, let's move over to shortstop. All right, so I really like. I think Seager's going to still be owned even though he's left-handed. I think Chris Taylor is the other. I'm mentioning the lower owned Dodgers, meaning like less than 15%, but probably less than 20, but maybe not much less than 15. And that would be the spot where you can play Chris Taylor because I think people won't go that route. And he's a guy I'm considering, but my favorite is Didi Gregorius. I like him in this matchup against Lugo and the Mets bullpen. I like the conditions in Philadelphia. I think that it's a good spot today for them. So I like Didi at a very low ownership today.
Yeah, Didi fits just so beautifully in this one lineup that I'm trotting out right now. I like him a lot. And for your Yankee stacks, you can play Torres. So I think we covered everybody.
Trevor Story is the only one we didn't mention, but I like Trevor Story too.
Okay.
If he actually stays below 20%, if we really think he's going to be less than 20%, I would make him a priority to try and spend up on this slide. He's one of the better spend ups.
I agree with that.
Yeah. All right. How about in the outfield? Because there is like 700,000 things we can do in the outfield.
All right. So then I'll go first. And
yeah.
I really think that the best play by far is not in the Colorado game. It's Stanton, isn't it?
I like Stanton a ton, and I think he's going to have not as the ownership that he should, but he's still coming off an injury too. Aaron Hicks, though, too. I mean, you could play Clint Frazier instead of him. All the Yankee guys make a lot of sense.
I mean, you like, and I see Tyler O'Neill's probably going to be pretty popular. Do you like him? I mean,
I love Tyler O'Neill, but again, that popularity, I can go to a bunch of other cheap guys. We've seen all these really, really these huge cheapies out there. I think I'll probably choose a lower owned one, although I may not need to because I am playing the Dodgers. I'm not playing the Dodgers.
other outfielders, maybe let's give a couple of others.
Tapia is a cheap one at the top of the Colorado order. Matt Kemp. But I'm not in love with those guys. Those are just the people.
Like Pilar also. I mean, like, yeah, I'm just, and it's not even in this one lineup I'm in, but in my Yankee stacks, I have to play Stanton. I mean, like,
yeah, you don't have to. I mean, we thought that yesterday about Judge, and I think that was.
Oh, don't remind me! Don't freaking remind me! Yeah, okay, you're right. You're right.
No, I'm sorry. I'm just gonna throw it out there. That thinking about it, the way Clinton Frazier, like if you're looking at recent form versus Giancarlo Stanton coming off an injury, who knows how he even is, and after missing a game, if he does play even, I think that maybe the Clinton Frazier gets the edge there, especially because he's going to be like a third of the ownership. Okay. But I'm going to play some Stanton, so I'm not saying I'm not playing Stanton because I am, but I'm going to play Clinton Frazier also. Okay. All right. Let's get over to, I guess, the stacks, man. So who is your favorite by now? I think that by now we should have our sort of thing, our guys locked sort of in.
You know what? Could you do me a favor?
Yeah, sure.
I just have to step out just a sec.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll take it over. All right, guys. So for stacks, I've got, let's see. We've got, I think the Yankees are my number one. Ownership and everything considered. I know they've scored 1 million runs back-to-back nights, and that's not usually a good thing to stack those teams. But I do like them. I'd say the Yankees, Houston. Obviously, the Dodgers make sense, but at that ownership, it's kind of hard to get off the chalk. I mean, you can play the bottom of the order, and you can play the lefties like Muncy, and you're still going to have somewhat of a common-ish build. So I like the Yankees and Astros, and I really like the Phillies mini stack, especially like Gregorius, Bohm. Those are sort of the guys for me. So we sort of talked about that. Sheets is right back in, and it's his turn to name his favorite stacks.
Yeah, so I'm getting more concentrated. I'm off of Cleveland. I'm going to be, it's probably both going to be pretty chalky, but I'm going to be into Houston and the other kind of obvious pivot off of the Coors game, and that's the Yankees. And the other thing is that I have also been drawn into the Phillies thing. So those are going to be my three things.
All right.
Oh, and by the way, well, we could. I'll say it indirectly in here. One of the things that I was really, really good at predicting, the thing that I said was probably a 95% chance to happen, just got confirmed.
What was that?
But he'll be better, hopefully, in like a week.
Wait, what happened?
But he'll be better in hopefully a week.
Who are you talking? Oh my goodness! Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry.
We knew.
Sorry to hear that, man.
We knew.
Shoot. All right. Shoot. I don't know how to transition from that, man. How am I supposed to go with that? Sorry, guys. We got a little stuff on the personal front, so sorry to do that. But yeah, sorry, man. That's disappointing. But you know what? Hopefully, it'll be just a week.
Yep.
All right. So real quick, I know you haven't looked at it much yet, but I've started taking a little glance at the NFL Showdown. I thought it would be worth it to the people. They really like to talk about the NFL stuff, whether they watch it now or later. I think it's probably good that we just talk a little bit about, what sort of makes sense just from a building standpoint, because you want to get different, obviously, on these showdown slates. You're trying to beat tons of people. It's really hard to do. You shouldn't be playing cash on showdown slates unless there's something like a little bit missing, maybe. In your life, and if that was the case, you should probably be playing tournaments. Have you looked enough to know to take anybody? Have you looked enough to know who you might consider or anything like that?
In which?
In the NFL Showdown.
I'm sorry, something buzzed in?
The NFL Showdown.
Oh, no, okay, the only thing, boy, this is going to be really off the beaten path, but I think that, because I was looking at Cleveland as a possible survivor pick, actually, it's a really aggressive survivor pick.
Wow.
So I was looking at it. I'm probably not going to do it maybe in one of my pools, but I think that I think Cleveland's going to have a good game, and I would not be so quick to buy into the Cincinnati guys. That would probably be my hot take is to kind of fade a lot of the Burrow related stuff, like in the Tyler Boyds and all that.
Yeah, I certainly understand that. That makes a lot of sense to me. Trying to think about how to get creative with these teams is, it's kind of interesting. I'm curious to see where we end up ownership wise on, Kareem Hunt. Maybe instead of maybe people will be afraid of Chubb a little bit. What about captaining a guy like Chubb? He didn't play they split more of the time last week. It was sort of a weird game script though. I could see Chubb sort of, even going along with that narrative you just mentioned. Maybe Chubb could have a big game tonight.
I'm kind of into that.
I think that's going to be a low-owned captain spot that we can go with. I'm actually more into the running side of this game anyway. I do like Mixon on the other side, but that's basically those are my favorite. I guess that would be my favorite thing is that maybe captain Chubb, and you could even consider on a long shot tournament playing Kareem Hunt as well, and hope that they get all their stuff through the running game. These games traditionally have been kind of ugly between these teams, partly because the teams both kind of suck always. But I think it's an interesting way to go. And I think you might see more field goals tonight, so you might consider both kickers. I would probably lean Cleveland kicker over Parkey over, why can't I think of his name right now? With all the shifts in NFL, remembering kickers' names has not become my new strong suit, but I would probably lean Parkey.
Okay.
All right. I'm just looking at who else we can look at. Going down the list, playing quarterbacks on a one-game thing, of course, makes sense, but am I in love with Baker? Not exactly. But I don't mind taking a shot. What do you think? Are we playing the? If I pick Chubb, I think maybe I'll pick Baker.
So far, I know exactly what I'm doing. So I'm gonna pull this up right now. I'm not gonna share my screen, obviously, but what we're gonna do is we're gonna go along exactly with my narrative. So if I believe that all that's gonna happen, I think what I want to do is something you mentioned. I think I want to put what's his face in the captain. So we put Chubb in the captain. We're definitely going to play the Browns defense. That's for sure. And then we got to get some points, right? So if you play Mayfield and who else is going to score points for the Browns? Is Beckham healthy?
He's healthy, and we don't know about Landry still. So if Landry's limited or out, obviously that's a bump for Beckham. It's probably a bump for Austin Hooper as well.
So what we're going to do is we're going to put Chubb in the captain. We're going to put Browns in defense. We're going to put Mayfield and Beckham also. And we need a couple of – I can play whoever I want. I still have $8K per player left if I do this.
Yeah, there's plenty of room. It's not a tricky situation today.
Is Jarvis Landry playing?
Can Jarvis Landry play?
Is he playing? We
don't know.
Okay.
And you touched on this yesterday on something. I wanted to sort of not push back exactly, but sort of, if you're betting $1 million a day, you'd have somebody there. First of all, in the current situation, you can't get inside information because there's not really anybody to get it from.
Right.
Those guys, you can't get much going there. You know what I mean? But also, people don't know. Mike Malone didn't know who he was going to close with the other night. You know what I mean? It's not like there's inside information that the coach has. They're going to play guys. Or McCullers was a great example because there was absolutely no pitch count on McCullers. We all knew that. It's just going to be about how he looks out there. But there was nothing there's no inside information that would be any help in those particular situations. And sometimes that's been the case, more so lately, because we've had less things have leaked out and there's less reporting. But there's also, I don't know. I thought that was an interesting point. Let's see. Hodger, Bryant are too expensive for big GP fees. No. Too expensive? Too thin. I'm sorry. I thought you said expensive. I'm not playing either of them, but you can do it. If you the problem I'm running into is why do I need to save that kind of money? It's Kanoa's had. I don't know how to. I don't think I can do that. You know what I mean? But I think if I was going to pick one, Thomas Bryant. I don't know what Thomas Bryant you're talking about. That's a basketball thing. I guess you mean, what's his name? Harrison Bryant. I think I would lean Bryant, but I don't have a great lean either way. I guess if we lose, if we lose Landry for sure, then I guess Hodge would be my end. Hodge would probably be the better play. But as it stands right now, I'm sort of leaning the other way. But I don't really love those guys. I don't find myself needing that kind of money, especially if I'm going to do something weird like play Nick Chubb in the captain spot, where this is the kind of game where he could really go nuts. And I think they want to get this offense clicking. So I sort of like the build I've got now. All right. No bad, man. No problem for getting the names wrong. I do it all the time. Yeah, it just seems like you don't need the savings, but maybe that's not a reason to avoid it. Like, especially in a big field, you want to leave some money on the table probably anyway. And I really like AJ Green, by the way. I want to say that. Like, I liked AJ Green last week in regular DFS. It didn't really work out great. He did get 9 targets. He had to push off on the touchdown pass he caught, which was a pretty bogus call in my opinion. And the Cincinnati really won that game. It was a really, really bad call in my opinion, actually. So that's sort of my favorite. I guess my favorite of the receivers for Cincinnati overboard. All right. I think that's pretty much most of the stuff. If there's any questions about the NFL stuff, we can always jump back to it. We're going to be doing an NFL stuff. We did an NFL show. We're loading that video, and then we'll touch on it tomorrow when we do our normal show here. But we're gonna make sure to have some good information for you guys. So make sure to check those out. In the meantime, I'm going to finish out this lineup real quick and jump over to NBA. Now, Sheets, it is a one-game NBA slate. Can you call it up? And I think we could probably figure out some things we could do from a DFS.
I'm do it right now. Okay, so NBA, Thursday shoot-around. Okay. Miami at Boston. Do you have any opinion on the game?
I think Boston bounces back a little bit. I feel weird saying it because I really like what Miami's done in general, but I do think Boston bounces back today.
So who are the upside guys? We're playing the showdown slate, right? So who are like the upside guys and who are like the safe guys? You don't want to go back to Wanamaker, right?
No. I mean, actually, I'm curious to see where his ownership ends up on the showdown because I'm open to it. They might really need him. I mean, he's not going to play as well as he did the other night, but you may not need him to.
I'll tell you who's probably going to come out freaking blazing. Not like he did yesterday, the last game, but especially the way that game ended. I think Tatum's going to be out for freaking blood today.
All right. I can get behind it. Yeah, I think it's going to be common. It's hard to find a differentiating thing. So maybe instead, like, if you're going to look for value, maybe looking at Robert Williams instead of off of a bad game. And I think Kelly Olynyk, those are the two guys off of bad games. They probably will get some ownership, but maybe skipping Wanamaker, using those guys as your value guys would be the way to go. You know what I mean?
How many minutes did Iguodala get in the last game?
His minutes are always going to range between like 15 and 22. Like, I mean, I don't know what they actually were. I can pull it up in a minute, but you have the screen pulled up because I'm just finishing up my my football thing here. But yeah, I mean, Iguodala's another one. Iguodala's probably a pretty good bet.
Robert Williams is only 2,600.
What about? I mean, I wonder where Tyler Duncan Robinson's ownership will be here because the way Harrow's been playing. I bet you we can get a little bit lower on him. I think that's an interesting way to go. I'm trying to get the actual build done right now, but like,
you could play Tatum in the captain and make a really good lineup if you wanted to.
Yeah. I think that's probably the optimal route. I think you should have Tatum in the captain. Yeah. And I'm lower on Kemba in general in these things, but the price is fine. Everything's fine. Tatum and Bam would be my favorite plays actually in this game in terms of who I think will score the most fantasy points. I also don't want to leave Dragic out anymore. Maybe fading Jimmy Butler is a good way to go today. I think it is. He doesn't need to do everything offensively. He's happy to take a back seat at times. I sort of think this Duncan Robinson thing is kind of interesting. Because I actually think I could see him not being as high owned as maybe he should be here. And Robert Williams, I don't know. I think he's going to play some minutes tonight.
I mean, if he's going to play some minutes, I mean, then let's play him. No, I mean, I hate to make it like this, but
I think Olynyk's the better. Like I know he's more expensive, but do I really need that extra money? I don't think I do. And I know he only played 10 minutes, but I could easily see that reversing here. I mean, there's so many ways that it could play differently.
If I'm really going to stay on brand, by the way, probably going to have to fade Bam, right?
Why do you want to fade Bam?
The big hero out of the last game.
Oh, yeah, but I mean, in all fairness, like Bam is like the one person in this series that really has, like, to me, a standout matchup. So I want to play him, but I get it. I actually like the Bam Tatum as my they'll be my what's it called, my captains for sure.
Those are your core, yeah. That makes sense.
And I would prefer Dragic over these other guys. I kind of just like that route a little bit better. But Kemba is not going to miss a million shots forever, and I just think at some point he'll probably have a game, but I don't know if I'm going to have him.
What about Crowder? I like playing this guy. I just do.
Yeah, I know. I get it, and I get it in general. The prices are getting a little different now with him. I think I would prefer playing Tice at lower ownership, way lower ownership. That's probably the route I would go personally. I think I'll fade Crowder tonight. I've loved Hero too, but I might be fading him too tonight. I got to try and do something a little different. Maybe if I play both the point guards, I think that's an interesting route. Actually, Jaylen Brown versus Kemba. I would prefer Jaylen Brown naturally, but I actually think Kemba's just going to get more shots. I think he's going to get it going, and they're going to try and intentionally let him, like, get him going at some point. So I'm sort of deciding between those two guys is basically my spot. I like them both better than Butler on a point per dollar basis.
Yeah,
that's just sort of where I'm at. All right, we'll get out of here in just a minute for this part of it. But Sheets, why don't we talk a little bit, just real quickly? We'll do more on the NFL stuff tomorrow, but why don't we give them a few highlights of, like, some of your favorite plays or stuff like that?
What sport? Anything?
We talked football for this coming weekend.
Oh, we're going to go with football. Okay, so I'm going to be I actually have an opinion here. So I'm going to be very concentrated on three games. I presumed that they were going to be really, really chalky, but who knows? Maybe not. And those three games are going to be one from the early slate and two from the late. One was going to be the Atlanta-Dallas game. I really think that game is a real standout, especially of the early games. You get to play, the top usage skill positions on both teams. You get to play Dak, Zeke, what's his name, and Cooper, and then you could play the secondary wide receivers very easily between probably a higher owned the rookie and maybe the lower owned Gallup would be a good play. And on the Atlanta side, same thing. You could play Ryan, you could play Julio, Ridley, and then the guy who had the big week last week, like you mentioned, Russell Gage, you could play him. So that's one game. And then in the late games, I'm into those the maybe a little more than you, the Arizona-Washington game. I like all the skill guys from Arizona. I think Kyler Murray's kind of like almost a lock in cash if you play cash. That's just me. I don't know. And then there's Kirk, who's be a little lower owned and cheaper. But then there's Hopkins and Ten Drake, who's a great running back option. And then running it back with he was really chalky last week, McLaurin. Maybe not as much this week. Who knows? And then if you want, you could take another shot at Gibson. Maybe these rookies take a little while to give them the workload. Maybe. Who knows? And then the last game I like is the Houston game, where I'm pretty focused in. I was pretty focused in on Watson, Fuller, and David Johnson. But then you kind of turned me on to Cooks a little bit as kind of a fishier play, but I kind of like that too. And then obviously Lamar and Mark Andrews and Marquise Brown. I think those three games are going to make up the majority of my exposure, and the majority, actually all of my game stacks are going to come from those three games.
Well, I like it. I mean, that's pretty good stuff, man. That was better than just like a preview. I like all of it. It sounds good to me. I'll just sort of hit on some of my highest owned players. Some of them are chalky, some of them are not. Wide receivers, that Devontae Adams, T.Y. Hilton, Julio Jones, CeeDee Lamb, Calvin Ridley, Amari Cooper, Deontay Johnson, Hopkins, Will Fuller, Jamison Crowder. Those are sort of my guys. And then again, they range from chalky to not. Oh, also Keenan Allen. another one.
We do have to talk about Benny Snell, right?
That's what I was going to get to with running back. So I have him currently as my highest owned running back. I know he's going to be popular, but I realized that me and Cheats did our last show, that my favorite route for running back this week is to mash in. I mean, first of all, I like David Johnson and Melvin Gordon and Kenyon Drake in that 5K range the most. I like them over Jonathan Stewart. I like they're my favorite plays in that little chunk. So that's where I would go. But I really like all of Zeke, Derrick Henry, Saquon, and to some extent lesser Dalvin Cook and Edwards-Helaire. So if I can get those kind of a builds and find value at my wide receiver, which unfortunately I'm not finding these incredible values, but there are guys like we could take a chance on the CeeDee Lambs and the Jerry Judys and the Deontay Johnsons. You can see why I sort of was drawn to some of even Michael Gallup is not too expensive. And I mean, T.Y. Hilton is he's 5,700 and rapidly rising on my receiver list. So that's sort of the route I'm trying to go, maybe spending up a little bit at running back, except fading McCaffrey and cramming those guys in and then paying down at receiver. Also, Paris Campbell's another one who stands out in the same game against Minnesota to me on the Indy side. Even though I don't want to stack up Indy, I just looking for cheap receivers, and both receiving options are too cheap. Mike Williams is another one that stands out quite a bit. I also mentioned Keenan Allen. So I sort of like those guys as the cheap options along with Christian Kirk, and you've got the middling guys like McLaurin and Jones and all that. Hey, I appreciate it, Peyton. He seems to think that's the move. I like it. I don't think it's going to be popular. And you've got these super guys, these guys who can be hyper-targeted. Like, there's a chance that we get like 15 targets for Keenan Allen this week. It's really possible, especially against the Chiefs, a team that he is. Look at his history against the Chiefs. You will be absolutely blown away. This guy's had like 40 fantasy points against them like 5 times. It's incredible. And I know it's different quarterback. I know all this stuff, but he's going to be 5% owned. And he's 5.7K against the Chiefs, where they're going to need to throw the ball 40 to 50 times.
I want to address this, the Cudrell, Hodge, or Thomas Bryant. You think Hodge or Bryant are too thin for big GPP's question? I don't know if you guys heard me review last week, and especially some of Bobby's just really, really good takes, but probably the most overarching macro take that he had going into last week was that, there's been no preseason, okay? And you really want to, at least for a little while, stick with the proven commodities and stick with the guys that have been with the team for a while and know the system a little bit, rather than take shots on rookies and guys that just a little more speculative. Now, I know it's tempting, right? Because if you want to win the Millie Maker, you feel as though you have to just go a little bit nutso. But the people that won the Millie last week, I had heard of everybody in those lineups. Let's just put it that way.
Not only that, we played. The only guy I didn't play on any millionaire. All the other guys on all the big buy-in millionaire ones, I played everybody in some lineup or another. The one I didn't have was the one guy who you had, was Lazard.
Right.
That's the only one I didn't have, and so it just goes to show you, like, you don't. Not everything needs to be crazy, and maybe that guy this week. I'm starting to come more and more onto this Russell Gage thing. I know I mentioned some other cheap receivers. His price is too high, obviously. But we've seen this story with him before, and there is really a lot of upside, especially in that game, to maybe taking the only low-owned receiver who may not be on the field all the time, but had 12 targets. And if the situation is similar, I think you can expect some sort of a similar result. I'm still not blown away by Dallas's defense. I know that they've got some talent there, but they're also missing the linebacker. Like this is a spot where you really want to attack that game. But overall, if I'm gonna pick one game to stack, I wanted to just throw this out there. I would like to stack the Baltimore game. It's harder to do. It's going to be really low owned, but there's a lot of points coming in that game somehow. So if we can get it right, and maybe it's David Johnson on one side, and on the other side it's Travis Kelce, and maybe even throw Fuller in there also on the other side, and then you could do your stacks. You can even skip the quarterbacks. You can always throw in Mark Andrews and I'm sort of getting my Chiefs games mixed up. Sorry.
Yeah, I know.
It always happens to me when my two favorite quarterbacks, which are Lamar and Pat Mahomes, no shocker there. But I always do that with those guys, and they're skill players too. But playing in the last game, I think that you could play Andrews with Jackson, which is the most popular one. But running it back, Fuller and David Johnson are not going to have ownership this week. So that's sort of the move to me.
Hey, is that what's going to happen, by the way, after all our talk? Is like we alluded to in our earlier show, the Kansas City Chiefs, the offense is going to go blow up at no ownership? Is that really what's going to happen?
I think it's worth targeting. Yeah, I mean, like, doesn't really make sense to me. And also, I love the run backs in that game where I don't love the run. See, I love the run backs more as run backs. You know what I mean? I love the nature of Keenan Allen coming back. But that's sort of, I also sort of side a little bit with Edwards-Helaire in that game because he might get a lot of the work. But the problem is I don't know if it's enough at that price compared to the other guys. That's sort of the issue. And everybody would sort of say that. The thing is, like, Tyreek Hill might go out there and have 180 yards and 3 touchdowns in the first half. That could totally happen. I mean, that's on the board. So I don't care how good your defense is or who you are or how good your corners are. This KC team is going to carve you to pieces.
Yeah.
And Kelsey's the only one of them that are going to be owned in the receiving game, which is really weird. So that's an interesting way to try and get a little bit out there. It's funny. I noticed that I get more excited when we start talking about the football. I think I'm just going through a little bit of a rough baseball patch, but it's also like it's just I love the football. I know you didn't love the DFS football until recently. Hopefully, you're going to start liking it now that you're a winner, like a major winner. What would it take, Sheets? How much do you have to win for you to really like it? Do I have to like it for you?
Yeah.
Your lineups for you? Oh, come on, man. All right. I'm going to ask for any final QQs before we get out of here, and we will call it a day. We've done a few other shows. I'm going to load up the video we did for football on BetQL. I'm going to say real quick, guys, before we also get out of here, please remember to like and subscribe. And also, please remember to check out BetQL. These guys will make you money. Give them a chance. Give us a chance. We're doing these things for free, so show us your support. Show us the love. And we really appreciate it. We know we had a couple of winners. Jamie Campbell said before we helped him out on some things, and other guys have come in with some stuff. Throw us stories like that. Tell us how we cost you money. I don't care. Let's have a conversation about all of it. I like these shows to be interactive. That's sort of where I'm at. And so if there's no final QQs, Sheets, you want to leave any bold takes? It could even be golf related, by the way. How are your golf lineups looking?
Got a long way to go, but yeah,
you're on the good side. That means they're looking good, huh?
Yeah, Kokrak looks good.
I don't know how my core is playing well and my lineups all suck.
I know. How is
that possible? Like every time I look, I'm winning less money, and it's like, what's going on? I feel like my guys are all in good shape, but whatever, we'll see. All right, guys. All that being said, appreciate you guys really hanging in there with us, and let's make some money tonight and this weekend. And any QQs, feel free to throw them at Sheets and I on Twitter or hit them up on the YouTube page, whatever. I'm happy to answer in either place. I'm going to go with one bold call tonight, and that is that Nick Chubb scores 2 touchdowns and is a viable captain option. Is that bold enough? So I have to go 2 touchdowns and he goes for 100 yards. That's good enough, right?
Yeah, I think that's plenty of hot take.
Okay. That's my one for tonight. And my baseball one is don't sleep on those Phils. Don't sleep on the Phillies at all. All right, guys. For Sheets and for everyone at BetQL and RotoQL and QLTV, etc., I am BobbyFi saying good luck today, and we will see you at the top of the leaderboards.